Your bedroom isn't just where you sleep. It's where your spirit rests, where your guard comes down, where you're most vulnerable. And there are things in that room right now. Objects you see every single day that are working against you, not because they're evil on their own, but because of what they carry, what they attract, what they anchor into your life while you're unconscious. I spent years placing these exact objects in people's homes, knowing they'd never suspect, because the best traps don't look like traps. They look like gifts, like memories, like nothing at all. People think spiritual warfare happens in dramatic moments, possessions, hauntings, dark rituals. But the real battle, it happens in the quiet, in the ordinary, in the space where you close your eyes and trust you're safe. I used to exploit that trust. When I practiced witchcraft, I didn't need to perform elaborate ceremonies to affect someone's life. I just needed access to their personal space, their bedroom specifically, because that's where the veil is thinnest, where your conscious defenses drop, where your soul is exposed for 6 to 8 hours every single night. And certain objects, they act like spiritual antennas, broadcasting frequencies you can't hear but absolutely feel. Let me show you what I mean. XX, the first object is broken mirrors or cracked glass, toxis. Most people don't think twice about a picture frame with a small crack or a mirror with a chip in the corner. It's just damage, right? But here's what I learned: cracks represent fragmentation. Spiritually, they symbolize division, incompleteness, brokenness. When you keep fractured glass in the place where you rest, you're surrounding yourself with the energy of things that cannot be made whole. I used to intentionally gift people mirrors with hairline cracks, so subtle they wouldn't notice immediately, because over time, that subtle fracture becomes a subconscious message. You are broken. You cannot be repaired. And the mind believes what it sees repeatedly, even if it's not consciously aware. Think of it like this: if you planted a seed in soil mixed with poison, would you be surprised when nothing grows? Your bedroom is the soil, and cracked glass is the poison. The second object is photographs of people who hurt you, but this one seems obvious, but you'd be shocked how many people keep pictures of toxic relationships in their most intimate space. An ex who betrayed you, a family member who abused you, a friend who abandoned you. They say they keep the photo because it's from a good time, or I don't want to seem bitter. But spiritually, you're inviting their energy to sleep beside you every night. Photographs aren't just images, they're energetic imprints. They hold memory, emotion, intention. When you look at a picture before bed, you're reopening a door you thought you closed. And some doors should stay locked. I used to counsel people to keep photos of their enemies close, disguised as forgiveness work. What I was really doing was making sure their pain stayed fresh, their wounds stayed open, their breakthroughs stayed blocked. E6, the third object, is gifts from people with bad intentions. XS, a necklace from someone who envied you, a book from someone who secretly wished you'd fail, a blanket from someone who smiled to your face but cursed you behind your back. Gifts carry the giver's energy, always. And if that person's heart was corrupted when they gave it, the object becomes a Trojan horse. You welcome it into your space because it looks harmless, beautiful even. But it's transmitting a frequency of malice, jealousy, or control. And your spirit feels it, even when your mind doesn't understand why you suddenly can't sleep well, why your thoughts are heavier, why opportunities keep slipping away. I used to enchant jewelry and give it as peace offerings. The person thought we'd reconciled. What they didn't know was that the object was designed to keep them spiritually stagnant, unable to move forward in any meaningful way. The fourth object is electronics that never turn off. Pot 6, your phone charging beside your head, a TV on standby, a laptop that hums through the night. These aren't just emitting electromagnetic frequencies. They're emitting noise into the spiritual atmosphere. Constant stimulation, constant connection, constant distraction. Spiritually, you're never fully at rest. Your mind can't detach. Your spirit can't recalibrate. And when you can't rest, you can't heal. When you can't heal, you can't break through. I learned that keeping someone digitally tethered was the easiest way to keep them spiritually bound. Because the moment they'd start to gain clarity, a notification would pull them back into the chaos. Your breakthrough isn't being blocked by what you're doing wrong during the day. It's being sabotaged by what you're allowing into your rest. Broken mirrors and fractured frames broadcast a message of incompleteness, conditioning your subconscious to believe you can never be whole. Most people dismiss a cracked picture frame or chipped mirror as insignificant, just minor damage that doesn't warrant replacement. But in the spiritual realm, symbols matter more than we realize. Glass represents clarity, reflection, and wholeness. When it's fractured, it becomes a visual representation of division and brokenness. Your subconscious mind absorbs everything in your environment, especially in spaces where you spend hours in a vulnerable state like sleep. Think about what you see before closing your eyes each night. If the last image your mind registers is something broken, incomplete, shattered, your spirit internalizes that message. It's not conscious. You're not actively thinking, I am broken. But the repetition creates a pattern. Night after night, Your mind sees fragmentation and begins to accept it as your reality. This is why people often feel stuck, incomplete, or unable to move forward despite their best efforts. They're literally sleeping, surrounded by symbols of incompletion. When I practiced witchcraft, I understood the power of environmental conditioning. I would give people gifts, decorative items with subtle imperfections, a beautiful frame with a barely visible crack, an antique mirror with a small chip. They display these items proudly, never suspecting that the flaw was intentional. Because once that broken object entered their personal space, it began broadcasting a frequency. You cannot be made whole. You will always be fragmented. And over time, their breakthrough would stall. Not because they lacked faith or effort, but because they were subconsciously agreeing with the message their environment was sending. Pictures of those who wounded you act as open doorways, allowing their energy to linger in your most sacred space night after night. Photographs are more than paper and ink. They're energetic time capsules that preserve moments, emotions, and connections. When you look at a photo, you're not just seeing an image, you're reconnecting with the energy of that moment and that person. This is beautiful when the relationship was healthy, but it becomes spiritually dangerous when the person in that photograph caused you harm, betrayal, or deep pain. Many people keep photos of toxic relationships because they want to remember the good times or because removing them feels like bitterness. But here's the spiritual reality. Every time you glance at that picture, you're reopening an energetic door to that person. You're reinviting their influence into your present moment. If they hurt you, manipulated you, or wished harm upon you, their negative energy doesn't dissolve just because time has passed. It's stored in that image, waiting to be reactivated every time you engage with it. Your bedroom should be a sanctuary, a place where only peace, protection, and positive energy reside. When you keep photos of people who damaged you in this sacred space, you're essentially inviting them to sleep beside you. Their face is the last thing you see before closing your eyes. Their memory infiltrates your subconscious during your most defenseless hours, and your spirit cannot fully rest because it's constantly processing unresolved trauma, unforgiveness, or emotional wounds that the photograph keeps fresh. When I worked in spiritual manipulation, I would encourage people to forgive and keep the memories alive by displaying photos of their abusers or enemies. I framed it as maturity and healing. In reality, I was ensuring they remained tethered to their pain, unable to move forward spiritually or emotionally because they were feeding that connection daily. Objects given by people with hidden agendas carry frequencies of envy, control, or sabotage that quietly disrupt your peace and progress. Gifts seem innocent. Someone gives you a necklace, a book, a blanket, a decorative piece, and you accept it as a gesture of kindness or love. But not all gifts come from pure places. Some come wrapped in hidden intentions, envy disguised as generosity, control masked as affection, sabotage presented as friendship. And when an object is given with corrupt intent, it carries that energy into your space like a virus. This is one of the oldest tactics in spiritual warfare. The gift looks beautiful. It might even be expensive or thoughtful. But the person who gave it was silently wishing for your downfall, hoping you'd struggle, or attempting to maintain influence over your life. That intention doesn't evaporate when the object changes hands. It embeds itself into the item. And once you bring it into your bedroom, that frequency begins to broadcast. You might notice subtle changes, difficulty sleeping, increased anxiety, unexplained heaviness, stagnation in areas where you were once progressing. You can't pinpoint the source because the attack is invisible. It's not loud or obvious. It's a slow, quiet erosion of peace, joy, and forward movement. The object sits on your dresser or hangs on your wall, looking harmless, while spiritually it's acting as an anchor, keeping you bound to the giver's ill will. I used to enchant jewelry, books, and home decor items before giving them to people I wanted to control or hinder. They'd thank me, display the gift, and wear it with pride. What they didn't know was that I'd spoken words over those objects. Intentions for confusion, delay, and spiritual blockage. And it worked because they never suspected that a blessing could actually be a curse in disguise. Devices that never sleep ensure your spirit never fully rests, blocking the clarity and healing required for true breakthrough. Your phone charging inches from your head, a television on standby emitting a faint glow, a laptop humming quietly on your nightstand. These devices seem harmless, just part of modern life. But spiritually, they create constant noise. Not the kind you hear with your ears, but the kind your spirit feels. A restless, unending frequency that prevents true rest, true silence, true disconnection from the chaos of the world. Sleep isn't just physical rest. It's when your spirit recalibrates, when your mind processes and heals, when divine downloads and spiritual clarity come through. But if you're surrounded by devices that never fully power down, you're never fully powering down either. Your brain remains in a low, level state of alertness. Your spirit stays partially tethered to the digital noise, the notifications, the blue light, the electromagnetic frequencies that pulse through the air. This isn't just about sleep quality. It's about spiritual accessibility. When your rest is constantly interrupted or incomplete, you become easy prey. Confusion feels normal. Exhaustion becomes your baseline. And breakthroughs that require clarity, discernment, and deep spiritual alignment remain just out of reach. Not because they're not available, but because you're never still enough to receive them. When I wanted to keep someone spiritually disoriented, I didn't need to cast elaborate spells. I just needed to ensure they stayed digitally connected at all times. The moment they'd begin to find clarity or peace, a notification would pull them back into distraction. The moment they'd start to hear from their spirit or from God, the noise would drown it out, and they'd wake up every day feeling tired, unclear, and stuck, never realizing that their own devices were the cage. You don't need to burn your house down. You don't need to panic. But you do need to pay attention. Because the enemy doesn't always attack with fire and fury. Sometimes he just leaves a gift on your nightstand and waits for you to accept it. Walk into your bedroom tonight and look, really look, at what's in there. Not with fear, but with discernment. Ask yourself, does this belong here? Does this object carry peace, or does it carry something else? Your breakthrough isn't far away. But it won't come while you're sleeping next to the very things designed to keep you bound. Some doors need to be closed. Some objects need to be removed. And some spaces need to be reclaimed. Because when you finally clear the room, you'll realize how much lighter you can breathe, how much clearer you can think, how much closer you are to everything you've been praying for. The question is, are you ready to see what's been hiding in plain sight?